Cool. Yeah, I mean, I was in Playa. It was crazy over there. We were just on the other side of Pilado, and I mean, it was like 2 meters the beach break over there, and it was probably blowing like 15 knots, and so it would have been really good, but we were just getting crushed by the beach break, and I didn't have my straps, so I was strapless on my surfboard, and I was just getting annihilated. Like it was relentless. Like usually it comes in sets. There was no sets. It was just 2 meters, 2 meters, 2 meters, 2 meters, and so much moving water. So it was hard.
Yeah, I bet. Do you think that the short break was surfable or not? It was just big close outside.
The point was definitely surfable, but the short break with my kite, yeah. If it was a little bit more organized, I definitely could have surfed it. But it was so unorganized and so big, so it needed to be like a few feet smaller and like
Yeah.
a little bit more. Like you just needed a break, man. It was like you would try to hold the kite and get on the board, and the wind wasn't super strong, and so you were trying to hold the board, jump on the board, and hold the kite and give yourself enough power. And I just couldn't get enough power to get through the shore break. I mean, I did it a few times, but it was work. It wasn't uh, it wasn't good.
Yeah,
We'll
but
try it again.
I surfed Pelado yesterday. It was good. It was small, but it was fun. But it was the very first time that you could actually get in the water without getting in trouble with the police or with
Oh, really? What's it like
yeah.
today? Because we're like cold and windy and on
It's
shore.
so windy. It's so windy here.
I wonder if we could kite there today.
I think it's probably like 8 knots. I don't know how much wind do you need.
You need like
I don't
12
think
you need like 10 for the foil and like 15 for the surfboard.
I don't think it's 15.
Yeah.
It's maybe like 10 or
Yeah,
11.
Colorado.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
it's more exposed, but it
Let
could
me
be.
do an introduction of you, so
Yeah.
we have that, and I can cut this up. So,
No, no worries.
and then I'll just get you talking, man. Because I'll cut this conversation, put it at the end just for fun. Yeah. All right. So I want to welcome Raul Cabrera, also known as Nomad-A, to the podcast. How are you, bud?
Fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's a
great.
real honor.
Yeah, so Raul is a professional documentarian and is known as the most traveled Ecuadorian, having visited over 92 countries. He has a number of sponsors, including the Ecuadorian government, that funds Raul to be a travel ambassador, filming his travel throughout the world. So now that we got that out of the way, why don't you tell us a little bit about Nomad-A and your life? I mean, you've got a pretty exciting, unique life where you just get to be paid to travel around the world. So how did that happen for you, and what are you working on right now?
Well, it was a dream that I had ever since I was a kid. When I was a kid, most of my friends, they wanted to be architects, doctors, because you could be well paid, And I wanted to be an explorer. I wanted to go out and see the world. It's easier said than done when you're from a developed nation, like the States, probably anywhere in Europe, Australia. But when you're from Ecuador, it's like a pipe dream. You need visas to go everywhere, and to get a visa, you need to have like 6 figures in your bank account. It's complicated. So my friends and family, they'll be telling me, you want to be an explorer, you want to go and see the world, you want to be a tourist. That shit is so hard. It's probably easier for you to be the president of Ecuador than to do what you want to do. And I'm like, I want to go and see the world.
How
And
old were you when this started?
I think my earliest memories are from when I was 3. My mom loves traveling, so she'll take me literally everywhere. We'll go down to Peru, Colombia. She was a traveler at heart, but she had a profession. They own like a small supermarket, and I always wanted to be down there. I always like to talk to people. I always like to. We get all these people from Hungary and from everywhere, and I'll be like talking to them all the time, and they're like, "Hey, your kid is so talkative. Why?" And I'm like, they'll be like, "Oh, because in his mind, he wants to go and see your country one day." So my brothers used to study in a Catholic country. As you know, most Ecuadorians are Catholic, 98% of the population. And I remember they had a Bible, and inside the Bible, they had the 7 wonders of the world. And I stole the Bible from my brother. I still have it to this day in my mom's house. Is brown, and I used to sleep with it. And then in the middle of the night, I'll be like opening the pages, and I'll be like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and then there'll be like the 7 natural wonders, Victoria Falls, and all that. And I'll be like, one day I'll go and see every one of them. So that like really stuck to my mind. And when I was like 9, I wrote down in a piece of paper, because we had a guest speaker at my primary school, and he was like, if you have a dream, you have to like you have to draw a line and put the positive things and the negative things, how you're going to accomplish them. And then in the positive things, I'll write down, I want to travel because I want to be a better human being, because I want to learn more languages. And in the negative things, I'll write down, I'm going to miss my family. I'm going to be traveling on my own. I'm going to be eating bananas all day. And then when I was like 14, I started surfing. And then one of the very first places that I visited was Montañita. And there was nobody there. There was nothing.
What year was that?
Probably early 90s.
Wow,
90s.
Yeah, that's the beginning out here, huh?
Yeah, and Bito was there, and Bito is Mimi Varona and Israel's Varona's father. For the people that don't know them, they're like, Mimi's been probably second in the world a few times for female surfing. She's been runner-up, and also Israel. They've been competing in many contests worldwide. So I used to stay with their family, and Bito used to tell me, if you want to go and see the world, you have to speak more English, man. It doesn't matter if it's broken, but you have to make your point get across. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right. And you have to surf better. You have to surf better. You have to surf. You have to fish. None of that nonsense that you're going to be like a tourist. You got to be a world citizen. And I was a kid. And when you're a kid, you don't really understand what they're trying to say. Just when you grow up, then you notice that the subliminal message that they had for me. And in Montañita, I met all these tourists from Canada, there was one time I met a guy from Pakistan, a guy from India, people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, this is the early 90s. There weren't many travelers. Traveling, let alone, was difficult. And these people just came to Montañita because they wanted to go surfing. So, and then when I was like 16, no, when I was 13, my sister gave me an agenda. How do you call an agenda? A file fax.
Okay.
So,
like an organizer.
Yeah, an organizer. And then I used to write down every person that I met addresses in there. And then I had so many addresses in my agenda, and I'll be like, dude, one time I'm gonna go and see you. And they'll be like, yeah, whatever. And they'll be like, they write down their address and everything. And then I just stuck to my dream, I was like really good at English in my high school. I had really good grades, because I was like, if I want to go overseas, I better have like really good topics to talk about. And I'll be like, I have to be good at school. And I had to be good at school because my mom wouldn't let me go surfing. When you're 14, 15, 16, and you're in Latin America, remember my family is from Guayaquil, and Guayaquil is 50 minutes away from the closest beach and 3 hours away from Montañita. And they'll be like, you're going to go on your own? You better do your homework. You better have good grades. So every time I had a holiday, I'll be in Montañita weeks on end, and I'll be like months camping out there with Renzo Crumfle, and I used to say with Ricky, and Ricky was like, you're a freaking little rascal. And sometimes he'll make me wash the dishes. It was good though. It was like good learning skills, good life skills.
I'm laughing because they're all still here and I know them all.
Yeah. And
not here.
And it was hilarious because one time I was at Ricky's, and then he used to make these bootleg Billabong shirts. And then I heard some guy talking, you can't make these Billabong shirts here. And I asked him, Ricky, what was he saying? I didn't really understand what he was saying. He's like, dude, he's one of the owners of Billabong. And, you know, these are all fake Billabong shirts. And he told me if I don't stop making them, he's going to sue me. I'm going to lose my house. And I was like, really? And, you know, every so often you get these like really freaking international men of mysteries in Montañita you didn't know about it, you know.
Yeah.
And you meet singers and people that are like uncomplicated. They'll be like so low key that you'll be like, who's this guy? And then you get to talk to them. And some of these guys were some big shots, wherever they came from. And so I started surfing. I learned English. I was studying in high school. I finished high school. And then I saved enough money to go and visit every single country in Latin America, because I had all these addresses in my organizer, and I'll be like, I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna see you. So I just rock up with a friend of mine that used to live in Montañita. They call him El Cholo, Joffrey Garcia, and now he lives in Costa Rica. So I finished high school, and I'm like, I was working with my brother at his supermarket and all summer, and I'm like, I'm gonna go and see every country in Latin America. My family was like, well, good luck. It's gonna be a good experience for you. So I grabbed my backpack, my 2 surfboards, and I went down, literally visit every single person with my surfboard, with my tent, sleeping bag, and a bunch of stuff that I didn't need. You know, my mom, you know, people in Latin America. My mom, she gave me a suit, and she's like, you have to wear this suit just in case there is a quinceañera somewhere. And I'm like, how is it gonna be a quinceañera in Peru? It's like, you never know. It might be a wedding. They invite you. You need to look nice. So I had like so many kilos of unnecessary stuff carrying with me through Machu Picchu and everywhere I went. But in the end, I traded it all.
What year was that?
94 or 93, I think.
Okay.
No, 94.
So you were about 17, 18 years old when you started really hitting the road.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did it transition from kind of you traveling just as a backpacker to kind of you working as a documentarian and the government really looking at what you're doing? I mean, you're famous in Ecuador now. Everybody knows Nomad for all the traveling you've done and all the content you put out there. You put out a ton of content. So when did it kind of transition into that?
So that was the very beginning, and my friend had a reflex camera.
Yeah.
And it was really old. So we'll be taking pictures through the whole way. So that's when my interest for photography started. I wasn't really taking pictures, but he'll be like, Joffrey was really good at it. He'll be like, dude, you gotta stand this way. And I'm like, dude, I'm already standing here. It's like, no, you have to pretend that you're not looking at the camera. That was new for me. And I'll be like, okay. So in the end, we have this collage of beautiful pictures of our travels during 4 or 5 months visiting all these people. So I came back to Ecuador, and I grew up a lot. I was like, in a way, a lot smarter. You know, I was street smarter. And then then my mom was like, you have to do something with your life. So I started a course in university, economics and international relations. I didn't really know what to study, but I didn't want to study tourism because I think I could do that on the road. So I was like, I really like international relations, and I'll study economics because the economic situation in Ecuador at the time Ecuador was bankrupt. Our president had a rock band, and he was the lead singer. This is surreal, but this actually happened. Abdallah Bucaran had his own rock band. He was the lead singer, and he played for the Ecuadorian soccer team every last minute of every international game with a number 9.5. And this is crazy to believe it now, but in retrospective, it was true, and we lived through it. And I was like, shit, what the hell I'm doing here? And then it all started. I'm like, I don't want to live here, you know. It was horrible. It's
not any different than the U.S. as a game show host as our president right now. So.
Well, it could be, you know, because they compare it to him. You know, people
really?
that know Bucaram and they know Trump, they're like, dude, that guy is American Abdallah.
Oh, that's funny. So now I see what you're going through.
Yeah, and Abdallah means the chosen one. So I
Okay.
was like, so I met a girl in Montañita, and her father was Phil Cox, which I didn't know at the time. He was a big shot. He was a partner in Virgin Airlines or something like that, and
Okay.
also he was the CEO of ASDA, and ASDA is like comisariato in Ecuador. Um, it would be like I don't know in America, Costco's, maybe like the CEO of Costco's. And so he invited me over, and I'm like, he's like, come to England, we want to meet you. Our daughter she was an exchange student, and then in the end, she stayed with me and my family for like 3 months. And they're like, oh, come and spend a summer here. And I was like, you know, I really want to go, but I have to finish university. And then I was like, man, should I go? And I didn't really want to go, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And dude, and that was like 96, and I left, and I didn't come back for like 16 years. I was away the whole time,
How many years?
like 16 or so. I
Oh my
was
God.
away.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna go back to Ecuador for a while. It was so much fun being overseas and being able to do what I've always wanted to do, which was travel. And then at some stage in my life, I ended up in New Zealand. And in New Zealand, I had really, really long hair up to here. And then a friend of mine was like, dude, do you want to work on TV? And I'm like, sure, man. It beats washing dishes. Yeah, of course. TV sounds good. He's like, okay, they hiring people like you that look like you because we have a really famous TV show that they filming here. And this was while I was hitchhiking to go to the mountain to go snowboarding. So I'm like fast forwarding 10 years. No, 5 years. And then so I met this guy while I was hitchhiking, and he gave me the address, he gave me the telephone numbers, and I went there for an audition. And then I got so I had a job working for Cena, the Princess Warrior, and also Hercules. Both those TV series were filmed in New Zealand. And then I worked there for a while. I was in a few of the programs, and then I met a guy while I was working also as a snowboard instructor in one of the mountains, and one of my really good friends to these days, Gareth Sheehan, and he's a cinematographer. He's pretty good, and then after a few years, he's like, dude, you know what? I've never met many real travelers, especially Latin American travelers. He's like, and I had this idea. I wanted to document like all these amazing people that I've met during my travels, which were like over 16 years, like the people that most inspired me. And he was like, dude, we should document it, and maybe you could sell it to the, I don't know who could buy it, Red Bull. And I was like, yeah, it could be. I think he mentioned maybe the Ecuadorian government. And I was like, yeah, that means that I have to go back to Ecuador. And then I met a guy from Ecuador, and he's like, he had the will, but it's so difficult, you know, it's so difficult to sell something in Ecuador. It's like selling Pepsi to the owner of Coca-Cola or something. It's so hard and complicated. So I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I came back to Ecuador, and then I pitched to somebody from the Ecuadorian government, and he's like, dude, this is actually pretty good. I love your freaking travels. And it was crazy because the Minister of Communication at that time like had given me a few rides when I was a kid,
Okay.
you know, to go surfing. And he's like, dude, I do remember you. You know, you're Raul. You're like little kid, and you were always hitchhiking. And I'm like, yeah, man. And now I have this. And he's like, oh, wow, that's amazing that you've been to all these countries and you invested in it. And my TV show Nomad-A, it was broadcast nationwide for free. He's like, okay, we're gonna make a deal. We want this to be an inspirational TV show, and so one of the TV stations bought it. But after the first 24 episodes, the first 2 seasons air, he told me the conditions is you have to donate it to the Ecuadorian Ministry of Education, so it could be broadcasted nationwide for free in every single channel. So I was in every single channel for like 3 years. they took off The Simpsons and El Chavo, which were made two legendary TV shows to put my program in, so that it could maybe inspire another Ecuadorian to follow their dreams.
And that
Because
was
my myth,
that was in 2012.
no, that was 2014.
Oh wow, okay.
So I came here, we filmed in Ecuador, and then I went back. I had a girlfriend from Denmark. I was living in Denmark at the time. And then I went back to Denmark. And then at the beginning, they say, yeah, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And then we didn't do it, you know. But then I had a short film. And that short film won so many film festivals that it represented Ecuador in the Olympic film festivals, which were shown in every single country where there was a Olympic commission. It's 7 minutes long, and I did it with Gareth. Gareth and I did it, and that actually brought attention. The president saw it, and he's like, "Who's this kid? This kid makes really good content. I want him to be my documentarian." So I was his documentarian
For Korea.
For Korea for like 3 or 4 years during his travels. And we made like 17, I made 17 documentaries for him, but I was like a ghostwriter. I never wrote down my name. Because I didn't want to get in trouble with, because politics they fluctuate so much. Sometimes you're like here, sometimes you're at the bottom, and they investigate you. So I was like, dude, you know, but you can always see in every single documentary, you can always see like a Nomad-A sticker or somebody wearing like Stan Lee, like wearing a Nomad-A shirt.
You're making propaganda videos.
or like a cameo appearance. You can see me in the background somewhere.
That's cool.
And it was fun, you know. I go to interview a lot of people. I interview Julian Assange.
Oh wow.
I interview Nicolas Maduro, president of Venezuela. I interview Jeffrey Sachs. I was with the Pope. I interview a lot of people from the Vatican, and yeah, it was like an apprenticeship, working with the president at the time, that he got me really involved into what my degree was, international relations and economics, and I got to travel, which was my dream. So the reason why they couldn't hire another person, it was because most documentarians in Ecuador, I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying some of them, they couldn't speak French, English, Portuguese, Japanese, but I could, you know, so that was to my advantage. And Gareth was working with me. At the beginning, we did the TV show and the short documentary, and then we were working with the president, going all over the world and to these high-class up events. There was one time we went to the Panama Summit, and for the very first time, Cuba assisted to the summit, and Obama was there talking to Raul Castro. They were talking about the import ban that they had in goods, and yeah, it was amazing to interview all these presidents and to be with them and learn from them.
How did you get that first meeting set up with the government? Was it through connections or?
Dude, I was in Ecuador, and I've never told this to anyone. I was like knocking on every single freaking door at every single station. That was my work.
Yeah.
I'll wake up, I'll be on the beach, I'll be in Montañita, I'll be in Playas, and I'll write down emails. I'm like, I'll send them the short, and I'm like, my name is Raul Cabrera, I'm a documentarian. I've been living overseas for the last 16 years, and right now I want to be part of the audiovisual community, and I can make your brand bigger if you give me an opportunity. And that was so hard, man. That was so hard. At the end, I had so many people interested in me, like a few banks, but I didn't have a program yet. The TV stations didn't want to give me a shot. So one time I went to Quito for another reason, and then I went to the Minister of Communication, and I talked to one of the main guys, and he's like, dude, I do remember you. You were like, because I like surfing and I've seen you the surfing magazines. You've like been traveling all over the world. And then he saw my show. I'm like, this is what I do. And he saw it and he's like, how the hell do you do this? Who sponsors you? And I'm like, no one, me, myself. And he's like, how the hell do you get to travel to so many countries? And I had such a little time to pitch my idea, but he was so important. I didn't know that though. I told him, you know what? I told him in a minute everything that I've done. And then he's like, and he showed that to the president. And the president was like, dude, we gotta get him on board. You know, he has to inspire people. And it sounds strange to say it because we're from different cultures. You're from the United States. I'm from Ecuador, and the United States is known for being the land of opportunities. Over here, you have to create your own opportunities. It's like you came here, you had an idea, and you developed this amazing thing, which is Montañita States. But you gotta have a lot of balls, you know. The economy is freaking like this.
Yeah.
You don't know where you are. You don't know. People might sell you. They might sell you a whole farm, and then 2 weeks later, you have no farm. Then the owner will be like, "Who the hell sent you the farm? Sell you the farm? This is my farm. Get the hell out." And this is raw. This is Latin America. I'm not saying it happens every single time, but it does happen.
Yeah.
So the guy had to know that I was genuine. He's like, are you sure this is you? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, man, it's me, it's long hair. And then they chose that short to represent Ecuador in the Olympian film festivals. And then we had several meetings. But my mind was never that far ahead. He's like, okay, we're going to show this. We're going to showcase you as the Ecuadorian traveler that goes everywhere in the world interviewing people. If we want to replicate this, we don't have enough money to do this, what you've done. So we want you on board. And then a few months later, they told me, can you do this for the president? Like your adventures, Nomad-A adventures, but every time the president has a summit, you can make it really interesting, showing the scenery and from your own perspective, like really apolitical. And then I was like, yeah, I can do it. And then Gareth and I was like, okay, this is just another Nomad TV show, but I'm not the star. The president is the star. And dude, they really loved it. And I love the word. And I'm gonna give you the link so people can see it. It's not political propaganda, but it's more selling. So when we went to Qatar and Switzerland, it was more about the country, the people, the Ecuadorian people that live there. I interview a lot of expats and I interview a lot of people who were born in Ecuador but didn't have enough opportunities, and they were actually living coincidentally in that country. And they tell their stories about life and everything. So it was pretty inspirational, and I learned a lot about Ecuadorian politics, and my dream came true in a way, like
That's
what I
cool,
wanted to
man.
do.
That's an amazing story. So,
Thanks.
yeah, and you know, when I think about what you're telling me, because in Montanita there's a lot of talented kids. I mean, you named a couple of them, Mimi and Israel, and there's a handful of people here that are just super talented that just don't know how to get out. And you know, I sponsor Congre, is another one who wants to be a UFC fighter. Is probably one of the best athletes. He grew up in the orphanage here. Is one of the best athletes I've ever been around. And you're trying to not only connect them, but teach them how to organize their lives in a way to get out of here, which is contacting sponsors. Do what you did, which is why I asked you. You know, knocking on doors, you know, of every TV station and making the process of getting out of here a full-time job, not just getting the job. And I think there's a lot of talented people here on the coast that just don't have that work ethic, and you know how to get themselves out of here. And you sharing your story to them, I think is going to be really inspirational. So that's really cool. I've been trying to work with a lot of these kids for years, trying to say, I can't be your only sponsor. You need to find other sponsors, and you need to organize your day in order to contact the banks, to contact the big brands here. So yeah,
Robert,
yeah. Go ahead.
You know what? I really, you don't, when you're doing this solo, no contribution is small.
Yeah.
Because I learned that even if they give you a glass of water, that's a contribution of a particular person that can do that for you. And when I heard about you sponsoring Cangri, Camacho, Mimi, and I always told Jonathan, dude, one time, Jonathan Camacho, for the people that don't know him, is a BMX Phantom, and he was in my TV show. He's in my TV show. And the very first time that the second time that he got invited to the Simple Session, which was in Estonia. Simple Session is like the Roland Garros of BMX. All the stars are there. It's BMX and skate. Ryan Sheckler, Tony Hawk, Shaun White, they normally go to that event. But in order to get there, you have to be invited. They invited him for the second time, and I was like, dude, my full-time job right now is to get you to the Simple Session. So Jonathan, he was doing shows on the street to get money to go to the Simple Session. I'm like, dude, if you want to go there, so we knocked on so many doors. We got our Pony Malta, which is a local energy drink. They paid for our tickets to Spain, but then we had to get our own way to Estonia. And Jonathan saw what it takes to get there. And he was, at some stage, he had like $500, and I'm like, dude, we need more. So he had an iPhone, and he sold it. And he knew what it takes to get there, especially when you're from Ecuador, where fans and sponsors are limited, because we don't have such a big industry like Europe or America for energy drinks, so of that matter, you know. So you have to really make your own way, and you have to rely on different sponsors, different people that support you to make one drink happen. So he saw what it took, and then he was, you know, it was like high school for him of international learning. And I'm proud of that guy. You know, he speaks English right now. He travels all over the world.
Yeah, and he's kind of a cool case too. Instagram has really helped some of these kids a lot because they've grown their Instagram presence so much. And you guys are, you know, you're famous in Ecuador, and I'd say 80-90% of my business is in Ecuador. So I can now go to Jonathan, who's built up his brand to a level where when he posts something on his Instagram, we get responses. And so it's cool to work with someone like Jonathan now because he's evolved past, okay, this is just charity, that he's actually able to give back to me in the form of my sponsorship with him actually pays me back. So he's probably the first one that's kind of made that transition to I'm just helping him to actually, I can give him money and I'll get something out of it, which is cool. Yeah.
But it's good that you take your time and you take your money to invest in these kids that you never know where they're gonna go, you know. I mean,
it's not really the goal. When I've done it over the years, because I've done it over so many years now, that it was never really the goal to get anything back. Instagram's changed that though, where there is, I mean, somebody like Congre, Eric Garcia is another one where they have such crazy engagement with Instagram. They post something, they'll get 3,000 likes in like 2 hours. You're like, holy shit. And how do you do that? And yeah, so they have more tools. They just don't really know how to use them. So they should be working with somebody like you to help them use all these tools they have now. That's what I'm spending a lot of time with these guys now, kind of helping them develop their Instagram, kind of teaching them how to monetize all this engagement they have with Instagram. I spend a lot of time helping them with that, but you'd be a great person to help them with that too. So
yeah, I'm always open for advices and everything.
Yeah. So something that I wanted to talk to you about, which is, you're not prepared for this question. I didn't shoot it to you in advance, but something that drives me nuts, Bali. So I think Bali has the best marketing in the world. I've been to Bali to surf a few times, and I can't stand it. It's crowded. It's polluted. the surf is good, but it's more crowded than LA. Yet if you look at Bali online in magazines, the reputation of Bali is way better than the place. If you were to offer me a trip to Ecuador or a trip to Bali, I'd take Ecuador in a second. And I think most people would once they've been to both. Ecuador is super behind when it comes to marketing its brand. Like the Galapagos, everybody wants to go to the Galapagos. There's a lot of tourism from Quito to the Galapagos. What can Ecuador do? And you're a big part of this because you're helping to kind of shape Ecuador's brand in the world with all the work that you're doing. What can Ecuador do, especially a place like Montañita? What are you guys doing to help kind of develop the brand of Ecuador and the brand of Montañita for the world? So when people hear Ecuador, they think Bali. Like when you think Bali, you think of this tropical, beautiful place, and it's just not. It's just not that great.
And that's the great thing about marketing.
Yeah.
Because with marketing tools, the thing is that all these countries are way ahead of us. Why? Because they don't sell the country as a whole. They sell individual destinations. Bali is not a country, but a lot of people think Bali is a country, you know? And then, for example, Sumatra, it's a huge island. And you also see these things, visit Sumatra, visit Bali. And that's one of the marketing tools that, like, visit Cancun, that we're not doing. Like individual videos or individual marketing campaigns showcasing different locations in Ecuador, because they will all go to the same place, to the mothership, which is Ecuador. Like selling Cuenca. Cuenca it's an amazing place. You know, a lot of people fall in love with that city. I think we have the highest rate of retired Canadians and Americans living over there. It's number one. More foreigners living in Canada and America as residents than anywhere in Ecuador.
But I'd say 90% of the world hasn't heard of Cuenca, even though what you just said is absolutely true, which is amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
There's so many retirees there from the US, Canada, and Europe, but most of the world, you know, if you were to ask, you know, about Ecuador, they would tell you Quito and not Cuenca, even though Cuenca is a much more beautiful city, if you ask me, and there's way more expats there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that what you don't know probably, it was that these very, very few people know that I was asked by a surfer from Chile when I was just doing my TV show. He's like, you know what? Montañita is the capital, is the surf capital of Ecuador. Why don't you turn Montañita into the World Surf City Network? And I pitched that to the government. Like initially, that was my initial idea when I was working for the Minister of Tourism. And then it was included, but they haven't followed their alignments, which are like really sell, like I'm telling you, individual destinations like Salinas, Montañita. And I think people like you, people like Angry, people like Eric with the Instagram, they can do it. And they do it because they're selling their lifestyle. And when they sell in the lifestyle, they also sell their hometowns, which in this case is Montañita. I think we need more proactive, because if the government doesn't do anything for you, then you shouldn't rely on it. You know, I think every communa should get together and invest in marketing, like Instagram, Facebook, and try to visit international tourism first. One more time, not to sell the country as a whole, but to sell individual destinations. Because when you sell individual destinations, by default, you're selling the country. Yeah. That's my input.
Well, it's interesting because Montañita is, I mean, if you look at South America, it's famous for Latin Americans, famous party capital of South America, probably the surf capital of South America too. I don't know a more famous surf town in South America than Montañita. But outside of Latin America, it's almost a secret. Which is, to be honest, it's nice when you get here because it's not like you're stepping into Costa Rica, which often feels like you're just in Southern California, or Bali, which is just polluted. So yeah, it's interesting to see. And I've been here for long enough, 9 years, where I thought there was going to be this crazy uptick in evolution, but it hasn't really happened. It's still relatively, quiet here as far as tourism from the U.S. and from Europe. So it's interesting.
I think when I went to this international first, when I was working for the Minister of Tourism, there was even freaking Palestine. They had their own stand, Nobody wants to go to freaking Palestine.
Yeah.
I've been there, but if they had their own standard, that means something. When I went to the Colombia stand, they had like visit Bogota, visit Cali, different people selling different destinations. But we don't think about that. We don't think that.
Well, Colombia is a country right now whose brand and kind of stature in the world for tourism is like exploding over the last 5 years. A lot of that has to do with just the cost. It's very cheap to be in Colombia right now. But I mean, Medellin, relative to 10, 15 years ago, what people thought of it, and now it's like night and day. So it's interesting to watch, because when I got here in 2011, Ecuador was really trending up, and we've kind of plateaued, and Colombia has just exploded. Just as far as just name recognition and brand in the world, it's kind of neat.
And I have more bad news for you, because the Minister of Tourism is merging with another minister, or I can't remember which one. So they're gonna have limited funds right now in order to promote. So if we don't do it individually, through people like you that have big impact in America, and you're always selling Montañita, which I appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of I guess you still get criticized or whatnot, but it's just haters. And even people from my own country, sometimes you read the comments, when somebody's trying to build something positive. They're like, come on, we're like trying to paddle the same way, contribute. Because Montañita is amazing, but what you have around Montañita is just incredible. The route of the Spandulus, Olón, Manglar Alto, Dos Mangas. Dude, it's like the Garden of Eden. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
really.
So beautiful, and it's a shame that it hasn't exploded like Costa Rica or
well, it's growing slowly. So, which is nice, to be honest. From my standpoint, when I moved here, I kind of said, okay, I'm going to do this investment. If Montañita explodes, I'm going to be rich, and if Montañita doesn't explode, I'll be happy. So it doesn't matter. So that's always been kind of my position on my life here. And it's growing, but it's like you said, it has peaks and valleys, and it's great. I mean, I still surf by myself and enjoy the lifestyle. So I'm not really in a rush.
That's good.
Yeah. So hey, let me ask you just some softball questions. I thought we'd talk about travel a little bit, and since we're both cooped up in the house for a while and we both traveled a bunch, where is the first place you want to travel after the pandemic?
I have 2 kids in Denmark.
Yeah.
So that's like my first travel destination always. But I want to surf in the Caspian Sea. I really want to visit. Besides the Caspian Sea, I had this trip planned with a friend of mine. We want to make a documentary we made one in the Holy Land in Israel and Palestine. Now we want to make one in Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Kazakhstan.
Holy shit, that'd be crazy. Are there waves yet?
Yeah, you'll be surprised. In some of the places, which
cold water, warm water.
I think it's mild water.
Yeah.
It's not. It's neither cold nor hot. It's just mild, like 17, 18 degrees.
So yeah, so
Success.
one of the things that I'm looking at, which because I kite surf now and I've surfed the whole world, is that there's all these new destinations for kite surfing that before kite surfing I never really cared about, but now I'm super interested in. So the coast I'm looking at, and I don't know if you've been there, northern Brazil, and then I think
As
it's
in Fortaleza?
Fortaleza. And
Yeah.
I've heard there's just miles and miles and miles of wind and waves because I kite with my surfboard. And so the plan this year was actually to go spend 2-3 months there, just chilling on the north part of Brazil and to kite that whole beach. Then the other part is the Caribbean side of Colombia, was to go hang out there in a place called Santa Veronica. I think it's an hour or two from Cartagena, which
Dude,
is,
that's the last frontier.
yeah,
That's beautiful there.
yeah. So those are my next two destinations that I was gonna go hang out.
You know, it's kind of crazy you mentioned Brazil, because one time, you know, I was the attaché. I was like the tourist guide for two of the main guys from the WSL, and I took them to Montañita because we wanted to do a WSL event with Manino. So Roberto Perdigao and Shandy Fontes, and they live in the southern part of Brazil, which is beautiful in Florianopolis. And they sent me a message today, and I was like, dude, I really want to go to Brazil. It's everything, you know. Brazil, the culture is so rich, the
Yeah,
food and the waves. And like you say, if you go north, there are places where there are no people, you know, it's
yeah,
incredible. And also Colombia, not many people go kite surfing and the Caribbean or surfing. There
yeah.
are a few surf spots as well over there.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame what's happening with this pandemic in Brazil because I think they're getting hit kind of hard. But yeah, it's gonna happen. We might go to Colombia first and then to Brazil after. So, okay, favorite surf spot that's not in Ecuador.
Favorite surf spot that is not in Ecuador? That's a freaking hard question, but I love Bawa in Sumatra in Indonesia. Bawa is off the coast of Sumatra and is off an island, if that makes sense. You feel like you're Robinson Crusoe in that island.
Yeah,
And the crazy thing when I went there is that I got malaria and I almost died. It almost killed me.
holy
So
shit. It's funny you
amazing
have to
way.
go all the way there to get malaria when you can just get that at home.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
All right, what's your second and third favorite surf spots?
I really love Raglan in New Zealand.
Oh wow.
It's an amazing wave. Another wave that I really like is Cactus in the middle of Australia. That's where they film Mad Max.
Oh wow.
They film Mad Max in the Nullarbor Desert, and it's in South Australia. It's close to where they filmed Jaws, the very first part of Jaws. And it's like 1,000 kilometers to get there. You have to drive in the middle of nowhere. And also Engabao in Playas
Yeah. That's
is
your
one
home
of my
break?
favorite ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, my home point break and Montañita. I love Montañita.
So
That's a world-class wave.
so for the listeners out there, you're someone that surfed the whole world. How do you compare the surf in Ecuador to the kind of these other places in the world?
When it's good, it's as good as anywhere in the world, if
Mm-hmm.
not better. But it depends, you know, because for somebody like Cabezon, which is an amazing big wave charger from Ecuador, like people often think he's from Hawaii or something. He's probably Pipeline or um, that wave in Desert Point,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But for me, which like middle level, is Ecuador. You know,
Yeah.
Ecuador has amazing waves. Galapagos is our own version of Hawaii.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Ecuador, I've surfed the whole world. And actually, you just named a bunch of places I hadn't surfed. So I thought I'd surfed everywhere until I talked to you. Um, but there's a lot better surf in the world than Ecuador. But if you want to surf by yourself in warm water in waves that are um, kind of gentle right point breaks and beach breaks all by yourself in a tropical destination, Ecuador is the best in the world.
And people are super kind.
Yeah, yeah, you're never gonna get vibe. You're gonna surf by yourself. It's warm, and there's days where it's huge, but there's just so many days where it's just like 2 meters and perfect and playful. So if that's kind of your vibe, then I think Ecuador is one of the best places in the world to surf. I mean,
And I think you've just described like 85% of, I think 85% of world surfers, they want a place like this.
exactly.
Warm water, 6 feet, safe in a way, not crowded.
Yeah.
And that's like, most of the people want to surf like this.
Yeah, the big thing is you have to know where to be at what time of year. So like right now, being in Playas is the spot to be, and Montanita is not that great. So having local knowledge is definitely key here, is the only thing. All right, favorite surf town in the world. So not the surf. I think Montanita is the best surf town in the world if you put it all together. But if it's not Montanita, where would it be?
I used to live in England for a while, for 4 years.
Yeah.
And they have a version of Montañita about 250 years into the future. And the place is called Newquay. Dude, that place is just
In
incredible.
England?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love Newquay. And no, it's not part of the World Surf City Network. Newquay, Hossegor, I really like Hossegor.
That's cool.
And Byron Bay in Australia, Raglan in New Zealand, also Biarritz in France, and Swakopmund, which is in Namibia, a few hours south.
You went to Namibia?
That was, I stayed there for 4 months surfing that wave when it wasn't known yet.
And Skeleton Bay?
Yeah, I did my skydiving course over there.
Holy shit.
You know? Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've jumped 50 times on my own from an airplane, and I did my skydiving course. I was working there packing parachutes. It was an awesome experience there. I have family there.
What year is that?
That was 1999. No, 1998.
Holy shit.
That
Yeah, that's before Skeleton Bay was on the map.
Yeah. And my friend Derky Redman, local guy, was like, dude, you're gonna get the best waves of your life. And there's not only, and they call it Donkey Bay. They don't call it, well, the local guys. And there's more waves. There's another, he lived 2 blocks away from a wave that was like the box in Australia. Big barrels on the right and a long left. Incredible. And his father used to be a skydiver. So I just met him on the street. I saw him with a board. I didn't know there was surf over there. And he's like, dude, do you guys surf here? It's like, yeah, we do. And then he took me in from that day, man. And I stayed with them for months.
4 months.
I love that family.
In Namibia?
In Namibia and Africa, in Swakopmund.
How did you end up in, why were you there?
Because it's funny, you know, and it's all correlated. Because there's so many South Africans living and working in England, just like Ecuadorians in America. So, and I met them in Newquay, and they'll be like, dude, if you ever come to South Africa, come to Jeffreys Bay, I take you there. And so when my visa was over, I couldn't stay any longer in England. I bought a ticket, let's go to South Africa. And I went to South Africa. I visit all these people. Also, Durban is one of my favorite surf towns in the world. And then I don't only like surfing, I like traveling for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I landed in Johannesburg, which is on the eastern side. And then I hitchhiked to Zimbabwe, and then I hitchhiked to Botswana, and then I hitchhiked and eventually landed in Namibia because I wanted to do a skydive course. And then I went down to Cape Town, and then I went back to Jeffreys Bay, hitchhiking, meeting people. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of the Nomad. I was a little nomad, and I was like 21, and people were like, and I looked a lot younger, so people thought I was like 17 or 16, and they'll be like, "What the hell are you doing here?" You know, dude. I remember one time I was hitchhiking through the desert. I was going to Namibia, and then I was camping in the middle of nowhere, like a few kilometers away from a gas station, and a black guy, an African guy came up to me. He's like, I had really long hair. He's like, dude, where are you from? And I'm like, Ecuador. He's like, I was proud of Ecuador. And he's like, what continent are we in right now? And I'm like, Africa. What animals do we have in Africa? I'm like, elephants, lions, hyenas. And he's like, that's my point. What the hell are you doing here, man? Do you want to get eaten alive? And then I just like woke up from this surreal dream. And he's like, come. And dude, he was working at the gas station. He walked with me and he told me 2 weeks ago, a British hitchhiker got eaten by lions.
Oh my God.
Sleep outside here. We have no lions. I have a gun and I hitchhike tomorrow. And dude, you live and learn. You're a kid. You don't know. You're like learning. That's what I'm saying. That was the beginning of the chapter Nomad-A.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't believe you were there then. All right. So your favorite city in the world?
Favorite city besides Guayaquil? What would it be? I don't know why I love Guayaquil so much.
Do you really? I can't stand Guayaquil.
It's because I was born there,
Yeah, I guess so.
I go free diving there. I know where to eat. I know where to party. I have my friends there. But besides Guayaquil, I think Dunedin in New Zealand. That's a small city.
You love New Zealand, huh?
Yeah, I have dual citizenship. I'm a dual citizen. I was there for so many years. I went to university. I work there. I have so many friends there. I have Ohana there, and it's a big part of me. I think I might go back there at some stage for a little bit.
It's done really well through the pandemic. They really did well in the pandemic, and they've enhanced their reputation a lot. A lot of people are looking to go to New Zealand. Pretty much the whole world wants to go there. Put a bunker there in case the world ends.
I know, Jacinta, the prime minister, she's done an amazing job.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's cool. All right, favorite place to eat in the world? Favorite food?
So, favorite food is it's gonna sound cliche, but it is sushi. I used to live in Japan for 3 years, and the sushi over there is. Yeah, I lived there for 3 years. It was my mom's dream to go to Japan. So I became the dream, and it was so expensive to take her there. So I went there, and I worked as a teacher for 3 years. And then I brought my mom over for 3 months. And then we traveled across Japan. And I also wanted to become a professional snowboarder.
Oh, wow.
And I was snowboarding a lot. I was
working. And snowboarding is good.
Yeah, in the northern island of Hokkaido, some of the lightest powder in the world. It was nominated a few years ago, World Capital Powder of the World. Powder is just amazing. The hills are not as steep, but they have amazing snow over there. And wow. I'll go there. I'll go back there in a heartbeat.
Is that where you surf too in the north?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
That's cool. For me, it's Mexico, man. You haven't talked about Mexico at all. Mexican waves, Mexican food. Doesn't get any better than Mexico.
Dude, Mexico is just my second favorite food is Mexican nachos.
Thank you. Thank you for giving Mexico the credit it deserves. The best in the world.
Dude, I was in Mexico. I've been to Mexico a few times. A friend of mine got married last year in Cancun. I went to his wedding. And then I met up with John Londres, which we were traveling through Puerto Escondido and down south for like a month and a half or 2 months. Mexico is just on another level. I think it doesn't compare to anywhere. It's just, that country is full of predicaments and contrast. And it's just an amazing place to be.
Yeah, I love it.
Mexico is really beautiful. I can't really describe that place. It's just everything about the country that it makes you feel unique.
Absolutely.
The food is amazing. The scenery is amazing. It's so much uncharted territory. If you go down south, it's like thousands of miles of unsurfed waves and spots. It's just beautiful. I love Mexico.
Yeah, no. Before I moved to Ecuador, I did a lot of traveling in Central and South America, and we drove all through Mexico, the coast, all the way down to Costa Rica over months. But the places we liked the most back then were Nicaragua and Mexico. Mexico was just, the waves and the food, and it was so beautiful. We loved being in Mexico. Living in the U.S. for so long, we went to Mexico a lot, so it was the easiest to, after we explored the whole country, going back and going to places over and over again. So we loved it.
I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, it's
That's
huge.
for sure.
Yeah. So if you were to choose a place to live in the world that wasn't Ecuador, and I think I'm going to tell you it can't be New Zealand either, because I think that was going to be your answer. Where would you like to live besides Ecuador, and why?
Either Portugal or France. I want to say it's Spain, but it's so much hatred towards Latin people in Spain that is just unparalleled. I don't know why,
Really?
but yeah, the southern part of France is just beautiful. The vast countries. If I could live anywhere, I think it could be there. France.
It's super interesting because you have, and it might just be because of how we grew up differently in different cultures. When I think of places that I'd like to live, I always think first, warm water. You have a lot of cold water destinations. And then I never really want to live in cities anymore. I like really rural destinations. I grew up in cities. I grew up in Washington, D.C. and lived in L.A. And it was awesome living in LA all those years. But I'll never live in a town bigger than Montanita again, I don't think. But it sounds like you like being in cities and you don't mind cold water.
Yeah, I actually feed from the energy of people. You know, when you're in a medium-sized city, you meet people like you. You know, like you could actually have a really smart conversation, not only about surfing but about life, about different cultures, and the southern part of France, around Hossegor and the Basque Country, is literally like the book of J.R. Tolkien, like The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You have mystic fog everywhere, and the waves are amazing. It's cold water, yeah, but just the French, you know, French food, and also Portugal, close to Lisbon, by Ericeira is so beautiful, man. I thought Montañita was beautiful, and it's still so beautiful. But when I visit all these places, I was blown away, you know. And I'm from a warm water destination. So for me, opposites attract. So I don't mind if the water is cold, as long as the waves are good, and
Yeah.
I'm intellectually challenged all the time. You know, when I'm in France or Portuguese, I have to think in a different language. So I'm like challenging myself.
That's cool.
That's what I like.
So this will be the last one. The place that blew your mind the most. So for me, it's like India and Nepal. I was just there. They're not necessarily places I'd want to go back to, but they're places that just kind of blew your mind. It's like being on another planet. And actually, I've been back to India twice now, so I did go back. But yeah, where are the places that blew your mind the most of everything?
Well, there are actually three places. The first one was Namibia, because I didn't know it existed. The second one, it was Israel. And the third one was Palestine. Those places are just, and actually you can watch my documentary, Sub. You'll be able to see it in the description.
Yeah.
My travel to the lost city of Israel.
Tell me about that documentary.
So basically, there is an urban legend about this ghost town, a town like an episode of The Walking Dead, which is in the middle of a desert in Israel, and they have these huge sinkholes, you know, and these sinkholes are everywhere. And every time you walk through these like ghost cities, I think a sinkhole can happen anytime, and you could disappear or die. And they call them the lost cities. So, and it's prohibited to get there. You're not allowed to go there. You're not allowed to visit. Nevertheless, people go there. It's full of hyenas, and I've always wanted to go there. And it's by the Dead Sea.
Holy shit!
And last year, a friend of mine, he's a Kiwi guy, Carl. He just came from Iran and Afghanistan. He's like, yeah, man, let's go there. And we went camping there with these hyenas in the middle of the night chasing us. And it was crazy. And where the apparently, if in the apparently it's in the Bible, that's where Jesus Christ met devil, and it's in the middle of the desert. It's close to Ain Gedi. That's the closest city, and you can see it on the documentary. And it's been, I think I've been thinking about that place for the last 5 years, and it was awesome to go there and see it for myself.
That's cool. All right, so what's next for Nomad-A, man? What do you got going on next?
So that documentary is gonna visit a few film festivals. So I'm gonna take it off the air soon, and it's gonna be this summer in New York. We're gonna show it in New York. So maybe I'm gonna fly to New York because Carlos Freire, he's a documentarian, and I've worked with him. He's based in New York. He's based in Manhattan. He's a professor at the University of at, at one university in New York. I can't remember which one it is. And through him, I'm gonna show this to various film festivals. And after that, I'm planning another adventure in the Caspian Sea with another buddy of mine from Spain, and we're gonna go surfing in all these places in the Middle East.
That sounds good. Sounds really good. Well, I think we'll have to check in with you every month just to see where you are in the world. Maybe we'll do one of these once a month.
That'll be awesome, man.
Yeah,
Anytime.
man. All right. Well, thanks for your time. It was awesome catching up with Nomad-A.
Hey, and thanks for always sponsoring me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always hooking me up with deals.
Yeah. We'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Thank you, man.